We are shows what you know. We'll always watch TV. And if you think we can't, we'll watch more and you'll see. That's why the people of the web believe in Jim from Las Vegas and Jacob from Sweden.
Extra, extra! Absolutely nothing has happened and nothing is going on in the world of Gilead, and for once it's not propaganda, it's actually completely true because nothing has happened at all, and that's the end of the podcast. Just kidding, we'll draw it out for you, just like The Handmaid's Tale would. That's right, here on the Gilead Gazette, we give you everything you need to know about The Handmaid's Tale and the world of Gilead in general, which isn't a lot. My name is Jacob Burrows.
Wow, my name is Jim Scampoli, and I feel like we're pulling a little switcheroo here.
Yeah.
Jacob Burrows is taking a stance that he usually doesn't take
What is
here
this
at the
shit?
Gilead Gazette.
Yeah, no, seriously, Jim, what is this shit going on in the show at this point? Hey, maybe they'll turn me around. Maybe they will. I don't know. Maybe I've had a few beers. Who knows? I'm just saying, this mid-season is painful so far. And what is this pain I'm talking about? Why, it's episodes 4, 5, and 6 of season 3 of The Handmaid's Tale. God Bless the Child, Unknown Caller, and Household. By the mere implication that we've done a switcheroo, are you more on the positive side now, Jim, on this season?
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but I'm not like it sounds like right off the jump you're pretty down. And usually I feel like I'm doing that.
Yeah, I know. I snuck. I
And
had
you're
to
like,
get in there. I felt like if I didn't get it in there early, you would take that role, and I felt like for once this is my time to shine in the negativity realm. Yeah, no, I watched the first. No, it might be me. It might partially be me, but I started watching the first of these episodes, and I was like, Jesus Christ, still with this, still doing this, huh? But I do feel that's justified. It's not like I feel like the show has promised me change, and I've not seen any. That's what I feel like.
yeah, I'd say that's fair. I feel like maybe you let 3 episodes build up and you had to watch them in a row, so it felt a little rougher.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I did do that. But yeah, no, maybe that could certainly have an effect. But Jim, then why was I pissed after 5 minutes of one episode? Because I knew there was more. I knew there was a lot more. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with that kind of because it is almost all over the place, but also definitely kind of standing still. It does feel like that as well, because we discussed the first 3 episodes that are kind of dropped at once, and here we are 3 weeks later with 3 more. But the first 3 episodes, a lot about Commander Lawrence and a lot about that. He's barely in these episodes.
Yeah.
Like he takes a big time back seat. We're back with the Waterfords, and I guess in a weird way, maybe I'm happy because like Serena's taken quite a dive, and I'm kind of like, haha, see, I fucking told ya. Why the fuck are
Yeah.
people acting like Serena should be trusted? But you're right, it definitely feels very samey, with some new torture thrown in, like people getting their mouths bolted shut and what have you.
Yeah. For me, it's probably just I've read some stuff about how they were thinking about the writing. I've read that the thought is that this break with Serena and our favorite handmaid of the whole bunch, it's like gonna be really important for the rest of the season. It sets the stage and everything, and I'm like, this is, I swear to God, the 10th time I've seen this scene where they get closer and then they push each other further away, and then they get closer and then they push each other further away, and that's all well and good, but like to have it on this massive scale, I'm just like, oh my God, we could have gotten you further apart by now if you just kept going down that path before, It's just been a constant back and forth, and like you were saying, every time we have to go like, why would you trust Serena? And then then she just does again because she's like, surely the same, like we wouldn't do the same 3 episodes again, would we? But then we do.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of like I didn't dislike the episodes as much as you did. I thought there was some good stuff there, but I definitely was thinking, where else can they go with this show? It feels like there should be more happening or some more change. and it is all going back again. I know we've harped on it a bunch, but season 2 finale, when June decides to stay, and it's like, here we are. Yeah, I mean, I guess we get to go to Washington D.C. and see the handmaids that have the things covering their mouth, which reminded me of, like, in Star Wars, you know, if you're a stormtrooper and then you go to a new place and you got like a different type of stormtrooper. It's like, ooh, this is the cool, like, this would be the new Handmaid cosplay when they do protests in Washington or whatever. Like, they're throwing in a little accessory to add even more to it. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Sandtrooper, yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. It is horrifying, but with this show, it's kind of like, oh, here we go. Here's some more, you know, the terrible things that are happening.
Yeah, I didn't really mind that bit as such, though. It has been pointed out that surely the true horror of Gilead is that they would have the covering and then society would stop them from talking. And then it's like, nah, we're just going to actually physically bolt their mouths shut and then sort of think that the rest of the world's going to think that's great. But, you know, I'm fine with that bit. But it is really like you said, all of this would probably be fine if she never had the chance to just leave. And then she did have the chance to just leave. She didn't get Holly. I mean, I do agree there are good bits in these episodes, and we can get into those as well. But overall, on the movement of where we're going, I'm like, maybe if the last episode ended with her, like, showing defiance in the live TV broadcast or whatever, because we've been promised revolution. I believe they will deliver on this, but at the moment, I'm like, oh, there's a lot about baby Nicole. Like, it's almost the same back and forth we've had with, with Serena, we're now having with, oh, Nicole's safe, but then it's like, nah, Nicole's not safe. And it's like, okay, so not only did you not get Holly, Nicole also would have been more safe if you'd left. Sorry, Holly. I mean, I got them mixed up there, but, you know.
No, Holly's right. Holly's actually her real name.
Yes, exactly.
June stupidly decided to call her Nicole, and now that's coming back. The chickens are coming to roost now on that one.
What I meant to say was she didn't get, not only did she not get Hannah, she also made Holly less safe by sending her off on her own, not being there to protect her, legally speaking. Great job.
And this is kind of nitpicky, and I could just be misremembering here, because in one of these episodes they make a point of how Gilead has a military force, and I guess that would have to be true because the way they run Gilead. But I don't know. I kind of remember it didn't feel like they were a world power, but I guess they are.
There's a lot of us being shown more of Gilead, which is cool in its own way, but the rules of Gilead are kept in obscurity for us, which I think at one point was something that made perfect sense because the handmaids wouldn't know about that stuff, and we were in the perspective of the handmaids. Now we have the Swiss in there going like, we don't know how the fuck Gilead works. And it's kind of like, okay, it still kind of makes sense that we wouldn't know, but still, I don't know. I do agree with you on that. It's like we were given a post-apocalyptic image of the world in season 1, and maybe that's just because we were in Gilead and they were sort of saying, yeah, everything's terrible out there in the dangerous world. Aren't you glad that Gilead's protecting you? And then Canada's just basically fine. You know, we had some meetings with Mexico in season 1, but they're probably fine. Switzerland seems fine. So yeah, it's hard to say how much of a military power they really are, given that they can't even hold on to Chicago.
Yes, yeah. So, I mean, I guess we can go kind of through the episodes a bit. We don't have to go beat by beat, but episode 4, we're intercutting with this mass baptism with flashbacks to when June had Hannah baptized. We do get to see her mother, Holly, again. And this kind of does set the stage a bit for this international incident revolving around baby Nicole or baby Holly, whichever, you know, we're team Holly over here. Which this stuff does make sense. Like, you know, it's things we've somewhat seen happen in real life before. Like, you know, over whose jurisdiction, who's a citizen of who, and what can be done. And then politics come into play, and maybe the best choices aren't always made for the sake of politics. I didn't quite get where we were going yet, because this was episode 4 when they were making mention of it. But then Oh boy, we're in for a ride. I do like the
Mhm.
flashbacks to the Hannah's baptism and how like her mother is, of course, kind of catty about it, but it's not so much that they're religious, but they're kind of spiritual, and it was like a um more of like a what they thank God for the child, but it's just kind of like this general thanks for this blessed miracle of having a child.
Yeah. I felt, I mean, like I said, I didn't love episode 4 because it felt like it's a long, slow thing of here's more of handmaids walking, here's another new ceremony we get to learn about in Gilead, here's a dinner party, and none of that has any effect at all towards the end. The one thing in the episode is Emily gets to reunite with her son, which is beautiful
Yeah.
and great, obviously. Everything in Canada is so great. Just want
Yeah.
to live there. But yeah, no, we have to go through all this stuff, which the point of which is I'm not sure. We have sort of June arguing with Commander Waterford for giving Serena more autonomy, more power, sort of, or more independence. But that doesn't really pan out, does it? I did think, I honestly thought that like Serena. I thought the thing was, and this is skipping forward, obviously, but I thought the thing was that Serena was doing the whole thing about baby Nicole to get center stage and to get more power, and that she would say to June, like, chill out, like, I'm doing this to get more power so we can break the system, freedom for all, or something. Wouldn't really be her kind of move, but, like,
Well,
something along those lines, but it's so much more basic than that.
but here's the problem: is they could still do that, and that's
Yeah.
kind of even more of a waste in a weird way, where it's gonna be like like four like well we've got these 3 episodes, then they do like 2 more, and then by the finale it's the fucking pull the rug out from under you. Like no, all along, like, and that I in a weird way I don't want that. Like if they're gonna do that, just do that. But like, don't
Yeah.
do this thing where we have to kind of be in the dark as well.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I guess it makes sense that she wouldn't tell June, but the problem is it's gonna feel like a waste of time in the end because it's either like make Serena an ally and let's play with that, and even if it's in secret, or make her just the villain. Make up your mind. And it's the same thing they do with Commander Lawrence in a lot of respects as well, because the show doesn't want, they think they're being sneaky and they don't want to play their hand. And they
Yeah.
just have these, but it makes the characters seem very wishy washy, and it makes the universe seem even more ridiculous. Not in like a horrifying sense of like, oh my God, the world of Gilead's horrifying, but more in the like,
Yeah.
what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, and I mean, all of this should be prefaced by, hey, great acting, like great lighting, colors,
Yeah.
amazing stuff, like as always. But
Yeah.
so like set that all of that aside. We already know all that's great, so we're getting into the complaints here. And this episode did feel like a slog for me. And looking back on it, it's even more justified because they just reverted on everything that's happening here later on, and and it feels like they'll revert on that again, like you were saying. We do have Aunt Lydia freaking out and beating up. What's her name? Janine.
Yes, Janine or off Howard of Howard.
Yes. And she sort of relapses and wants the baby and all of that, but that's all again. Like Aunt Lydia's in the next episode again, like just being her same old self. That's the thing that keeps happening. That like it's almost like this is indicating that she's losing her political clout, but then yeah, she's in the night. She comes along to Washington or whatever. It doesn't matter. None of it matters.
Well, hold on. Before we move on from episode 4, we need to talk about the fucking Batman scene that happens. Do you remember the Batman scene?
No, what Batman scene?
Okay, let me set the scene. This is a fucking Batman scene that happened in Handmaid's Tale. And to echo what you said, yes, production-wise, acting.
Oh, now I know what scene you mean, but go on.
Yeah, no, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, but yeah, I mean, the look of the show is great. Like, it's cinematic. It's very interesting to watch. They're doing a lot of cool things with the visuals. The acting is top notch. But we have this scene where June's like in the foyer or whatever after the party, and then Serena comes up behind her and she's like, Hannah's like the neighborhood she lives in, she would go to this school in Brookline or whatever the fuck she says, somewhere in Massachusetts outside of Boston, because it's there in Boston. And then then June's like, "Thank you, Serena," and turns around, and Serena has disappeared like Batman. I couldn't fucking believe this. I didn't understand what this choice was and why she had to disappear like Batman. I knew she just kind of went in the next room, but she like purposely did it really fast
Yes.
to do a Batman like Commissioner Gordon moment. Like, thanks for the tip, Batman. Batman. Serena, where did you go?
Yeah, and we all know Batman's always hiding around the corner, or
Yeah.
like stuffed into like a ceiling corner, like like really holding on. But Serena must have really jogged out of there. But yeah, that's basically the culmination. It's like, oh yeah, here's some information. It's not doesn't get used for the next 2 episodes. I'm sure it will towards the end of the season. But that's kind of the thing. It feels like if you skipped all of this stuff, you get to do some world building and that, but it's still like you're still at the same spot basically, or even further back, 2 steps back, 1 step forward, that sort of thing.
Yeah, because then we have Luke on the protest video, and he's got baby Nicole there, and June confirms it. And then they have, like, she has that moment where she can walk away and kind of smile. Then we do see that Luke does get baby Nicole baptized as well. And I do want to shout out, they play Down in the River to Pray from Oh Brother Where Art Thou. I mean, I'm sure it's a good song from something else, but I'm pretty sure they used the Oh Brother Where Art Thou version, which is played during a baptism scene. Good shout outs. Sweet movie refs. Thank you.
Oh yeah, this is why we come to the Handmaid's Tale. All the sweet movie refs, we love them. That's like Ready Player One up in here. So yeah, that does lead us into the next episode where, yeah, the big thing is that Serena's allowed into the room with all these commanders who cut off her finger to learn about what's going on with her baby, and the baby becomes a big political thing rather than just, the baby's gonzo.
This is probably asking too much, and I guess it doesn't matter, but I don't buy that they would allow this.
Yeah, no, I don't.
And in a weird way, she ruins it almost from the jump, because she starts crying in the like meeting, and it's almost like all those guys are like, "Oh, here we go," let a woman in. She starts crying. Woman can't handle being a leader. Like, it just felt a little too easy with some of the stuff we've seen in the way like these Gilead people are supposed to be.
I mean, but she doesn't start crying, does she? You just mean kind of she's a bit emotional, or does she?
My notes say she cries at the meeting basically, and I put not a good look. I mean, maybe she definitely gets maybe she's not like bawling, but she definitely starts crying at the meeting.
No, you're right. She starts crying and everyone leaves. So
yeah,
great.
Like, oh, way to go, Fred. Good call by you.
Yeah, but it's like Fred kind of sells it as like it's up to her what happens next. Like, what did you want? And he's even like, we don't need the Waterfords in this show right now, I feel like, because Fred is such a nothing character.
Yeah.
And like, because he's sort of agreed to, like, okay, she sent the baby away to Canada. Like, I got you some pictures here. So, like, but then now I'm going to get her back, but I don't know. Anyway, she wants to see Nicole to say bye. And they go to June to ask for this. And she's like, no, of course not. You fucking idiots. And she knows that it's not going to end well. It's not going to make her, like, she's not going to be able to let go after that. And yet, I mean, this does parallel her and Hannah from earlier, I suppose, in the season. So she just kind of knows that it won't work out. I stupidly had enough faith in Serena, or in the show in general, that I didn't think that it would just be, oh, now she definitely wants the baby back, and nothing will stop her. Nothing will get in her way. I didn't think that, but that's
honestly, dude, I'm convinced that this is all a smokescreen. And then Serena at the end is going to be like, I had to do it. I had to do the like this was my political currency to get power, I'm convinced that's what it's gonna be, and it's gonna be all right, whatever.
I thought that there were like a couple of scenes that made me go, "Oh, they're not doing that." Like, I mean, arguing in front of the Lincoln Memorial and that.
That was so fucking melodramatic. But we'll get to that, whatever.
Yeah, but for example, and like I think another scene maybe with Waterford. I don't remember the specifics, but it made me go, "Oh wait, that's not what we're doing." But then, like you said, it could definitely be what we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, because well, before that, I mean, we have a classic June voiceover. So, it's a miracle. My baby's free. They offer grace. We don't die from something. We die from lack of love. And then we have Matthew, who's being a piece of shit. That's like
Yeah,
June's partner, stuff like that. And yeah, Fred wants Serena to join. You have a say. They want to arrange the visit. No. And yeah, I guess I read it more as, I mean, I guess you're right. June did see the potential there of that would mean that Serena wouldn't let go. But I just saw it more also as like, no, it's probably a trick. Why should I ever trust you? And
yeah, that as well. Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe because Serena's asking it and saying it's to say bye, and she did give up Nicole, so like that is the basis we're standing on. She does understand that Gilead equals bad. But yeah, more importantly, we get a scene where she finally gets to talk to Luke after 3 seasons. So that's pretty emotional.
Yeah.
They both do a good job acting wise and just the writing of that scene in general, and that she has to ask for something and that doesn't make sense to him. And it's like there's an implicit threat, obviously, in the whole thing. It's I don't know. It's good stuff here.
And then, of course, like June just doesn't want them to see her like kind of emotion and just like, how painful it is anyways to not to someone you haven't spoken to and you've been, stuck in this hellhole, not be able to just get into like, oh, I love you, I miss you so much, and all the stuff that kind of plays out later on with the tape, and plus limited time frame. But yeah, it's really well done. That like, I know we're kind of shitting on certain aspects, but some of these things they're really nailing between this scene, and we kind of glossed over it. But the Emily stuff, I mean, the Emily stuff in general, this whole season's been the most interesting. I've been saying that from the initial discussion, and very effective. Like really got me when she's back with her son and stuff like that, and just trying to live a normal life after going through so much extreme trauma. Like really great stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then we got, I mean, at least Luke makes kind of a smart decision here. Like, no, just her, because he doesn't want to see this dude that's been raping his wife for years or however long it's been.
Yep.
Then we have this thing with the mixtapes. And again, it's like, what am I supposed to think of the fucking Lawrences? Like, you make a decision already on where you want to go. Just another excuse. Handmaid still has some good needle drops, but more excuses for some needle drops to come through, dropping some fucking tracks on them.
Yeah, this is true. Now, I mean, this is a technicality, but I'll skip over the meeting between Serena and Luke for now. The tape, she records a tape, and it's in this packet that's given to Serena by the Martha, and she, after the meeting, goes and the tape seems to still be in her bag. No, after the meeting, or am I wrong?
Well, because when she goes and breaks down, like she's not on the plane yet, but she throws all her stuff around in the room, and it looks like she still has the package.
Yep.
Which I wasn't quite clear either on that. Did she then
run out? The package.
Yeah. Did we not see her like run out? Oh wait, hold on, real quick.
So that doesn't make none of that makes sense. Oh, maybe it still doesn't make sense. It doesn't I thought the twist would be she put the thing in the little box, that would be the obvious thing, but we don't see that, and we don't see him receiving it. We just see him like unwrapping a tape recorder. Maybe she gave it to the agent and got that sort of phone in exchange, but I don't think so, because she looks surprised that there's a phone in her bag. So what the fuck?
Yeah, and so is that who the phone was from?
Yeah, the phone
The
was
agent.
definitely from Mr. Coconut's.
I thought maybe it was a sweet moment from Fred that was like, "Hey, if
No,
you need me, give me a call. I know this is gonna be hard for you."
no. But when she's on the plane, obviously the I mean, it's we are agreed that it's the tape, right? In the for Luke package, like we
Yes.
agree on that,
Yeah.
right? So she does
Well,
bring it to the meeting.
what about
She
this speculation? How about a GPS tracker on that bracelet or whatever she gave to Luke for the baby? Huh?
that would be smart.
How about this for you?
Bit beyond her, I'd say. And like they could do that, but I'm so confused by the sequence of events because they can do this, but then they also cut through time where like he starts listening to the tape, but then it also cuts to her recording it, and that's fine, but it's like jarring in a way where I'm like, but okay, so now do I get to see when he gets the fucking tape or what's
Yeah.
going on?
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
we could have
clear
just
that it's the tape and what's happening, but like they just skipped over bits that I felt were kind of central.
seen, her either give the. I don't know. I guess they wanted to reveal the phone. I don't know. I don't know why they made this choice they made there.
Yeah, and again, maybe I'm just totally missing something. So I was fully expecting me to say this, and you go like, but no, there's a quick scene where she slips it in the tape or whatever. But no.
No, I did think the same thing, but I just had to be like, all right, I guess she ran back in and said, wait, come back. Hold on.
Cool.
There's this tape here.
Right. So then well, let's talk about the meeting with Luke. Which is a good scene just in general, I'd say.
Yeah, I agree. And even I felt a little bit for Serena, but also Luke's obviously completely justified in the way he's acting. Because it was like, God bless you, and he's like, fuck you. You're never going to be anything to her.
Yeah.
And she says, I protected your wife, and I guess it's somewhat threatening, but not really. And then he's like, what do you mean? What did you say? And then he decides to take the thing, kind of the package.
Yeah, that I like that line as well because there's ambiguity there where I don't think she means it as a threat actually, but then he's gonna hear it as a threat, or it's like up in the air and it's not resolved, which is kind of nice actually.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, he does let her hold Holly, which is a problem because apparently she is so controlled by her hormones that now she's gonna go to war with Canada or something. So great.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, it's well done. You do kind of feel for her, and I still don't. I mean, I'm still not a fan. I still wanted to get hit by a truck, like
we talked about
in
often,
the next episode, or dragged by a truck. And I guess then we have a cut to the Commander Lawrence and his wife, and now they're listening to mixtapes. Now things are fucking good at the Commander Lawrence household.
Yep, good stuff. I guess just skipping through it now, I guess we do cut directly from the For Luke package on the ground when she's freaking out, and then she's in the plane and she looks in the bag and the phone is there. So I'm guessing she gave it to Captain Coconuts of the U.S. in exile, and
Joel from Parenthood.
Yeah, exactly, Joel from Parenthood. And then like when he unwraps it. I don't know. Let's fucking move on.
So Commander Lawrence and his wife listen to mixtapes. And so what? So Serena's the one that says now it's over, and then Fred says it doesn't have to be. And
that's another moment where we just leave it, right? We don't get to, which is such a weak way to do it. I guess I get it because they want the big reveal at the end of the episode, but it's so unclear what's happening at the end of the episode. Even with it's like. Well, Serena must have flipped, we think, because Waterford is so weak at this point that he wouldn't go out and do this just for his own sake to get power. So yeah, I think I guess we will have the flip where it was all about Serena getting more power to be able to do something, but that isn't present in the way she's acting in this next episode, really.
Plus, it's this whole thing we've dealt with for 2 seasons of this back and forth with Fred and Serena. Because like you said, how like Fred is just kind of a waste at this point in a weird way. But because Fred is strong when they want him to be, and then he's kind of like very whimpery around Serena when they want him to be. And I guess that is kind of their relationship, and that is a little bit interesting. But it's not really that interesting the way it's happening now. And yeah, because like the whole build up to it. Well, first we have of Matthew talks about how she's late, and then she's apparently with child, and she's kind of the one that the handmaid that you're not sure if she's can be trusted because she's always saying the company line, but she does kind of break a little bit and tell June that she's glad her baby is safe because here's the realization that I think she mentioned that she's already had a baby, I think, and this is like
I think
second. Yeah.
No, she had 3 babies already, they say,
Jesus.
which is like, holy shit. And she's like, yes, I've been truly blessed. And that's why now when it's like, again, she's like, yeah, again. So fucking blessed.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, and I like that because she also had a scene with her and June where like there's no one around. She's just kind of like, fuck you, June. That's what you get. But because she is like in that, she is brainwashed to that point. Not every handmaid is like secretly sending notes about murdering the teacher around. So but still, then she gets this moment of like, fucking fuck this, which is nice.
And then we have June being taken into a truck again, very reminiscent of the end of season 1. It's like, uh-oh, what's happening? What's going on? Kind of intercut with Luke listening to the tape where she kind of comes clean about what's been going on and how Luke needs to find love and it's okay. And she found love and talks about Nick and how she's doing what she needs to survive. And this is all for Hannah. It's some good stuff. Yeah. Then we have Lydia getting June all gussied up. And we get the reveal of this, propaganda video that they're putting out. But this last scene, I hated. I hated it. I understand that, and I usually love the way The Handmaid's Tale uses June's looks and like looks into the camera, but this felt just like too much because it kind of does a slow pan zoom into her, and then the lights kind of dim, and she's just staring directly into the camera. It was too much for me. I wasn't into it.
Well, as far as the show itself, it wasn't too much, but it was a lot in the sense that, like, you had to do another take on that one, lads. Like, I get if you, I'm talking to the people in universe here making this propaganda video, because there's a fucking furious handmaid in the background, and I get the idea of, like, we want to have a handmaid in here because it's, like, a symbol of our society, it's part of what makes us unique, and it's part of our religion. But then it's and it would also make sense not to tell the handmaid too much of anything. But given the fact that the rest of the world would see that as like, this is like, if you just see a couple and they're like, we've lost our daughter, wouldn't that be more powerful than seeing a couple saying that and in the background is someone who was sexually assaulted, who has been sort of forced to bear this child for them, who is also incidentally looking totally furious with her hands clenched? Like, it would kind of take away from the message. But yeah, so in that context, it was certainly too much, that final shot.
Well, I mean, plus I understand that it's probably not literally what she's doing. Like, we're kind of supposed to be getting an insight into how June is feeling about the moment, but I just didn't enjoy it. I didn't like it. It just felt like it was like, hey, Handmaid's Tale, how handmaids can you get? And they're like, oh, we can get pretty fucking Handmaid's Tale. Wait till you see the end of episode 5 when then Sunday Bloody Sunday is gonna kick in. Fuck yeah,
Jim,
bro.
I'm just saying, if you think that's Handmaid's Tale, wait till you see episode 6. We have the Washington Monument turned into a big cross, and we blew up the Lincoln Memorial.
Yeah.
Let's get into that. I mean,
we just smashed his upper torso off.
That'll do it.
And then we left the rest because we need to be the site of a very melodramatic argument. And then meanwhile, there's a bunch of people right outside. So that also explains why Serena couldn't be like, I'm doing this for us, because I almost chuckled at they had this big, like, drawn out argument and everyone is like, I know I've said the acting's great and the acting's still good, but that scene felt very like acting, I'm acting. And then they walk like right out to the steps and there's a fucking army of people right there.
Yeah. Yeah, so episode 6, it does open with like people praying for baby Nicole because it's like it's become an even bigger thing. Like it's a national symbol. It's like this, big lost baby and everything. And that's why she has to go to the Capitol because we're doing an even bigger propaganda video or a series of propaganda videos. And we get to see how things are a little bit different in the Capitol. They have like the evil Sith version of the Gilead logo. If you're watching us on YouTube or even just searching for Gilead Gazette on your podcatcher, you'll find our version of the logo. Kind of a nice sunburst there. They have the Sith version. They're dark and gloomy in the Capitol.
Yes. Yep. So
And
yeah,
they have red spots on the floor for handmaids to sit on as well. Very organized.
yeah, we're off to DC, and Aunt Lydia's is pumped. I did kind of like that. Like, is that what people say? Pumped? I'm pumped. And then we meet Chris Maloney. I forget what his character's name was, but it is Chris Maloney, basically playing his character from Wet Hot American Summer. I don't know if you've seen that, but in that he's the cook at the camp, and he keeps making kind of like perverted or gay remarks unknowingly, because there is a scene where he's like basically hitting on Fred when they're playing pool or whatever. First he's like really showing him his ass, then he's got his hands on his shoulder, and even Fred's like, "Uh-oh, what's going on here? I got to pick up the subtext. Keep it snappy."
Yeah, I have watched Red Hot American Summer. That wasn't my first thought. Like, this is the exact same character. But I guess I can see it.
It's the exact same character.
Okay. There's another shocking sort of reveal there when we get to see... I just remember they refer to him as, like, the High Commander, which makes me go, okay, so we have commanders. Everyone so far has been a commander. Now we have a High Commander. So he's above him. Is there a council of high commanders? Is there just the one? Is that their name for the president? Is this the president? Or like what's the deal? But the handmaids don't know, so why should we know?
Yeah. I mean, and like it is funny because they're like, "Oh, you thought you knew Gilead because you were up in Boston, liberal fucking Boston Gilead. Look at the fucking real Gilead, bitch. This is the Gilead's Gilead." Our handmaids don't talk. They got their faces covered up. I got 6 kids. I don't even care. I'll bring as many kids as I want. Doesn't even matter. This is Gilead.
Yeah, which the people behind the show in some article I read, it referred to it as like Serena's like amazed at how many kids there are, and she's like, "Wow, wish I had this many kids." Like that's how they describe it. Maybe that's them trying to like get us off the trail of a potential twist. But still, I'm like, that's not how I would read it. If I was anyone in that room, like, obviously, if you're a handmaid, you're like, what the fuck? But even a commander, it's like, oh, but we, like, send, like, one baby, like, that's the policy. But it's like, no, we're in charge. So it really shows, I don't know. Not that they've always claimed to be, like, equal in Gilead, but it's still, like, a real fuck you to everyone else that you just have all these babies, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I guess it is kind of like they are really showing us a class system that exists, and it is a good way to show that, well, to us beforehand, the Fred and Serena were kind of tip of the top almost, but these are the people, the real haves, the real wealthy people down in DC.
But it's just so, I mean, I shouldn't say this with any surprise, but it's so weird and gross that they would act like it's not a big deal, that their whole society is founded on like, we don't have enough babies. How do we get them babies? And it's like, oh, we're just going to hoard them in the most obvious way possible. But I guess it's fine because we put bolts through everyone's mouths so they can't talk back.
Well, and also there's kind of this interesting kind of thing that I never thought about before, because the wife makes mention of how like she tells Serena how she read her book, and thank you for this great new world, because beforehand we were career people, and it almost kind of pitches them as they probably were people like in a regular world, and they're like, I don't want to have kids, it's so much responsibility. I love my job. I love to be able to do what I want. I can hop on a plane, go to wherever. But now that there's a world where kids are currency, like, I want all the kids. Give me them. I always wanted to have a family. I was on a big family. Like, it is kind of interesting because it feels like it's not genuine, and it's like they have them because they can.
Yeah. No, It's true. And what's the name of that actress who's the wife? We saw her on Haunting of Hill House,
Yes.
where I did most recently. She's
Yeah,
very
she's
good.
great. Let me look that up real quick. I think it's like spacing on her name because I did know it. I promise. I'm not even making it up right now. I'm trying to pull up the IMDb Haunting of Hill House real quick.
It's all right.
Elizabeth Reeser.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
she's great. And I believe we'll see more of her and this new High Commander in the next few episodes. We have multiple propaganda videos shot, or one at first, where we have the big fucking wings behind June, similar to Game of Thrones.
No, I was gonna say clearly Fred saw the Game of Thrones finale before the Gilead, and he was very inspired by what people on Twitter call, great cinematography. So yes, he's framing the wings around June. It's great because I can't tell if they're like making a point that he's a cornball with that. I guess they kind of are, right?
Yeah, I mean, but it's, Gilead isn't much for subtlety anyway, so I don't think anyone's like against it. But yeah, there's this big thing with wings. It doesn't even have a head or anything, so they just frame it perfectly. It is kind of weird to me that the Handmaid is given such center stage, but this, I suppose, is their way of trying to show the world the legitimacy of their sort of family structure that they've created, and that they did try to like sell to Mexico, and Mexico was kind of buying it as well. So even though there are kids everywhere all over the world and it's not actually a problem. But yes, so we basically have this to parallel the later scene where she is the one who gets down on her knees and then all the handmaids follow suit. But like they don't flip it at the end. They give us a little bit of like, maybe she's not gonna get down on her knees, but then she just does. So that's
Yeah, yeah. Well, before that though, Nick does show up. Fred decides to play with things a bit, have him stand in because, like, you thought you were standing in for me. Well, how about you stand in for me? Then they have a little sweet moment where they kind of hold hands for a second in view of everyone, like they're want to
on
do.
camera.
Yeah,
Yeah, of course. Totally on brand for them. Like, let's be as flagrant as possible.
Then yeah, we have a moment where it must be after because I just made a note that how Serena comments seeing her changed everything for me, and then June's talking about how our girl deserves better.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if this is the moment or later when like she's like, have you seen their handmaids? Like, because they're trying to remind Serena the whole reason why she let Nicole go was because she got her finger cut off and that women can't read. And now you're seeing people with their mouths sewn shut. This is not a good, like, yeah, I guess the kids in this Chris Maloney house are happy. But once they piss the wrong person off, I mean, we even saw, I mean, I guess I totally forgot about that girl they drowned in a pool last year.
Yeah, so did everyone else. She does get to talk to the Swiss, and immediately you feel a different vibe compared to like say exchanged words with some like we want to bring down Gilead. Now it's more like yes, we understand your feelings of frustration at this time, but we're gonna go ahead and give back your baby anyway. Even though she explains that it's neither of their children, and nobody wants the baby brought back, but it's like, yeah, but Gilead's kind of powerful now, so we're just gonna do whatever. She strikes a deal to have Nick come to them, which he eventually does, but it's kind of rejected because, as we find out, he was quite central, it seems, in the whole, bringing down the U.S., the crusade, as they call it, which is cool. That was a cool scene of him walking down the train. Everyone does a salute and all that, and it's like, oh yeah, now it makes sense that he's a commander.
It was
I
like a
feel like
very Nazi-esque type scene. But this is a clear retcon, which is kind of annoying, but there's not, they didn't, I guess they've always been purposely vague, except for when we saw that he was kind of a loser in the real world in one of his flashbacks.
I felt like it was kind of justified because in that flashback episode for him, we see him take on like someone who's instrumental, recruits him early on, like before there's a Gilead. So even though he's a driver now, we know he is also an eye serving this person. So the fact that he was what I assume, my first guess, it doesn't have to be the case obviously, but there was a big terror attack on the government. So like maybe he was the one making sure the bombs got to the right place, or part of that somehow. He could still be a driver after that, but he would be a driver who is an eye, and that's why everyone's like, yeah, definitely time for you to be a commander. It's long overdue.
My only problem with it is that it's just making Nick even more like all the other characters in the show. Now
Yeah,
he's basically another Commander Lawrence. He's another
yeah,
Serena. Like, because if you
it's
think
true.
about all the stuff he's done in the past, like to try to help June get away and everything like that, and even, I mean, I guess you can argue it wasn't so much that he was against Gilead and he was for June because he loves her or whatever.
Yeah,
But it's just because, think of all the stuff he's done in the past and like sneaking around and doing whatever. But now it's like, because it's also, we've been hearing about him being off to Chicago, and we've kind of assumed that it was something like against his will in a weird way, like he's being forced to do it. But now it's kind of revealed that, like, no, he wants to be on the front lines in Chicago. He's top dick there. Everyone's saluting him. It was a cool shot. It was a great scene, like when that happens. But I don't know.
yeah. Well, I totally get that. We do get to hear him say, not that it justifies everything looking back, but like he says to June before he goes to see them that like once you get in bed with like the government, it's not that easy to get out. He talking about the Swiss and why he wouldn't trust a deal with them, and he from before the fall, he had a great distrust of politicians in general, blaming them for the situation. All of this can sort of be related to current day events in a nice way. But yeah, no, I still see what you mean, because he has been one way, and now it's just saying, nah, it was this way all along. On the other hand, Nick has always been a kind of flat, two-dimensional character, and as opposed to Commander Lawrence, who has always been, I'm so crazy and wacky all over the place, who knows what I'm going to do next. This is almost like, I don't feel that it changes Nick's character, because he even does go to kind of betray his country, and they're like, nah, we don't trust you. At least that's how I read it. And so his character's still the same, but he's so deeply entrenched that he can't get out. He can try to get June out, but he can't get out.
Well, I mean, that would be interesting. I guess I didn't read that. I mean, if that's the case, is that he went to go do it, and then they were bringing up his past, and they don't trust him, and then he decides to say fuck it. And I guess maybe that is kind of there, and I just didn't pick it up because it is left pretty open. Like he shows up. It just would be weird because then I feel like they already knew who he was, and they agreed to the meeting with June. But I guess the other statement is that, yeah, you can't, like, they're the statement of the show is kind of that like politics in general are bullshit, and even these quote unquote good guys aren't really good guys either, because it's all in like political best interest no matter what. It's not about like the baby or whatever. It's just about keeping their shit kind of good, and
Yeah.
Gilead can do whatever they want.
Yeah. Which is obviously true within Gilead as well. The commanders, they're like, yeah, this system's great. No problems here. I have 8 babies.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the top dogs. I think Nick is at heart just a good old fashioned socialist. Wants to get rid of the head of the snake, but then there's just two more new heads. Well done, Nick. Um,
But then
yeah, so
maybe it's Nick and Serena, and all this has been the plan all along. June, pay
no.
attention. Wake up, June. Hello, McFly. Wake up. This has been the plan all along. I'm going to Chicago. Serena's taking the baby back.
Yeah. Do you want to say anything more about the shouting match? And I mean, she does have to put on the whole mouth cover thing as well. But yeah, there's a big
Well,
scene.
before that, we should talk about the Lydia scene because I actually really like this.
Oh yeah,
Um, because I feel like the line they try to run with a lot of these characters, like we've talked a lot about Serena or Commander Lawrence and even Nick to a point here. Sometimes they don't handle it well, but I kind of like this line they run with Aunt Lydia. Now, I don't want them to all of a sudden Aunt Lydia is a fucking patriot and she's on the side of the resistance, but I'd like her weird twisted morality, and in a weird way, like some of the shitty things she does is almost a way to save them from having their mouths sewn shut.
yeah,
And then just like they've always kind of shown she has this deep compassion for the handmaids and kind of feels like she's doing the right thing, even though like in the previous episode she's like beating the shit out of what's her face, Janine.
Janine.
Yeah, because Janine's a nutso. Uh, So yeah, I don't know. I just like this, and it's like, do you want us all to be silenced? I try, and she's like, no, I don't. I just try to think of the good I can do. And she kind of mentions how she thinks of June a lot, and it kind of makes more sense now because sometimes I'm like, Jesus, June gets away with everything, and it is almost like she's a weird teacher's pet in a way with Aunt Lydia, where she's doing her own twisted version of protecting them.
Yeah, but I thought she was surprised when she saw the bolted mouths, you know?
Well, yeah,
Um,
I do think she was because they did. Yeah, they had earlier scene as well. I think maybe it wasn't quite surprise, maybe partial surprise, but it was definitely horror. Like, oh my, like, is this the land that I'm helping to build or the world I'm helping to build? I
yeah.
think that was definitely there.
Yeah. No, I agree. She is like one of the. She's kind of the only character in Gilead that they do a good job of showing that she believes in what she's doing and believes it's not perfect, but this is what she has to do. Serena, it's obviously always been kind of. There was that at some point, but then there's the selfishness that comes in, and that is the case with all of the characters. Like Fred, I mean, early on in season one, we got to find out about Jezebels, and like all the commanders are actually big whores and all that stuff. So they're not actually following their own laws. But Aunt Lydia is one who actually kind of makes sense, which is nice to see some consistency in this world where things often feel like they'll just go in whatever direction they need to.
Yeah, yeah. So then we have the Lincoln Memorial. It's torn down. And we have this showdown. Like there's even literally, I feel like a shot where like the camera kind of pans down as and moves in as they're like on opposite ends and they're walking towards each other in very much a showdown respect. And of course, Serena's wearing the green. We got Serena in the green trunks going up against June in the red trunks. Oh, they're both coming up with jabs. They're coming in. Oh, that's a left hook you can't love. You don't know how from June.
Yeah.
Man. I should have put a pin in you when I first met you. Oh, that's a striking uppercut from Serena. I should have let you burn when I had the chance. Oh my God, it's to the body, to the body. Um, like don't get me wrong. I know I've been shitting on this, but there's a few decent moments in there, but I just couldn't get over the whole situation. To me, it was making me kind of gloss over a bit because I was like, man, this is like so it didn't feel like, I know they want it to be like epic, and it's like, here we are at the Lincoln Memorial, this place of wonder, and this place where, I mean, I've been there, and you do get, like, as at least as a good old citizen of the US of A, you get kind of a sense of pride and inspiration. And they tore it down for their shitty world they want, where the Washington Monument's across, and they're having this big argument. And I mean, some of it's all right. Some of it was just too much for me.
Yeah, I've also been there, and for me, the thought was, it's fucking crowded in here, isn't it?
It's super
Because
crowded.
in every film and TV show, it's always completely empty, and this is no exception. It's like they're doing a big ass film production, and I don't know why they're pointing the cameras at the Lincoln Memorial, given that they blew it up and not at the big cross. That's the other direction. But oh well, they got nice stairs. So yeah, no. Why is there no like PA like you're needed on stage, Mrs. Waterford? Like we fucking got a show to run. Like, and even if not, like, why doesn't Serena Joy have a coffee cup or something? I don't know. Like you do off camera. Like because they're just standing there. It is kind of absurd when they leave, and it's like, oh, we just happen to be recording right now. We happily let our prized handmaid, who's been so close to escaping a million times, just kind of wander around on her own, looking at the memorial and that before it seems like just walking down and immediately like happening to arrive as they're shooting this thing. There's like so many handmaids, thousands and thousands, showing the power of Gilead and such, but it's like that was all happening at the same time. I don't have a huge problem with it, but I'm like, oh, it's a bit of a surprise, and it didn't really go anywhere except to further inflate the Waterfords, which is like the whole thing, the thing with the High Commander as well. Like, wow, you have a future here in Washington, and so on, which, that would all be interesting if it, I don't know, it could all be interesting. We'll see. It's not at the moment to me.
I want to go back real quick to where you're talking about how it's always crowded because I mean it's slightly off topic, but when you go to like Lincoln Memorial, and yeah, there is a ton of people there. There's a bit on The Simpsons when Lisa goes to Lincoln Memorial and she's like, "Mr. Lincoln, I need some advice," and she starts asking like advice. But then as she's talking, someone else comes up, it's like, "Mr. Lincoln, I need to know," and then another person comes up, and another person comes, and everyone's yelling to Mr. Lincoln. And then she has to go to, I forget what monument she goes to, and no one's there. But then like that monument talks, and he's like, "I get so lonely." Anyways, yeah, I mean, I'm probably harping on it too much. I'm probably nitpicking a bit too much on it, but it just felt too like it kind of broke the fourth wall to me, and I became too aware. And I know that's like a silly thing to say about watching a TV show, but I feel like when we watch, we want to be kind of swept up in the story. We want to kind of be in on it. It just sometimes it feels a little too on the nose, and you're kind of very aware that they're like, message, here's a message. Let's get to this. But yeah, then June says I should have let you burn when I had the chance. It is impressive, like the lines of handmaids, and I guess we're seeing the power of Gilead. But then again, it also is kind of like we had a problem with kids being born. I guess that was a thing. And because at the very least, this makes it feel like the other videos always. And maybe this is the point. The other videos always felt like such obvious propaganda where it was like, who would ever buy this? But then again, I guess that's the point, is that people just buy into obvious propaganda, where this felt like it was more of a big, huge moment, like that you'd see, like, not to compare it to the Women's March or something, but when they're like, oh, the Women's March, look at all the people here. And you're just impressed that all the people are there, and it really feels like a movement. This kind of shows that Gilead is a movement. I felt like where internationally people would watch you like, oh, okay, this is a real thing and people believe it, even if it's kind of all fake.
Yeah, I mean, it's definite North Korean vibes of like all these ranks of people arrayed and making a very impressive performance. Never mind the fact that, they're in mortal peril all the time if they make one wrong move. Did you think she was going to get on her knees, or did you think she was going to try to stab Commander Waterford, or what were you thinking?
Well, I mean, I'm thinking she's going to do something every time one of these happens. But then I guess, again, it's the mission statement is still about Hannah, and that, she can't sacrifice herself for baby Nicole here, because there's still the possibility that it might work out. And then there's still the possibility of Hannah. I assume that's just the main thing on why she's going along with this stuff.
I suppose so. And of course, we couldn't have a big thing happening at the end of the episode because we all know that the final shot always has to be the face shot where we just see her looking out at stuff. And that is indeed how we wrap, I believe, all of these episodes. Get a very super close-up of her eye there with the cross.
Yeah, for a second, I almost thought, because they cut to like one of the handmaids, like kind of, maybe not grin, but like looks at June. And I was almost thought they were going to do another like bomb situation, but I was like, oh, what would that wouldn't help. You just blow up a bunch of handmaids. You just blow up your allies. Yeah. And even the reflection, the cross reflection in the eye again, I think that's just a bit much. Hold it back a little bit, Handmaid's Tale.
Well, I don't think they shall, but we shall see. I don't know if it's 10 episodes or 13 episodes this season, but we still have a ways to go either way. Are we totally wrong on this? Please do let us know. Send an email to showswhatyouknowshow@gmail.com. You can, of course, also leave a review on iTunes. We'd really appreciate that. Otherwise, it's showswhatyouknowshow@gmail.com.
Absolutely. And I spaced out here. So,
okay, well, you can always go to Jim and Them. If you like that charismatic approach that he just took there, you can find more from Jim at jimandthem.com, where he hosts a different podcast, and awesomepedia.org for anything from me. Besides that, I only have one more thing to say.
What's that?
Stop the presses!